Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. Today, we're going to talk about some technical studies that are part of the TradeStation platform. Those two studies are MACD and Momentum. These are studies that you probably use on a daily basis, and we're just going to look at the different ways in which you can read them. And not only that, but we're going to look at some of the strategies that are designed around MACD and Momentum so that you can test those signals that are generated by those studies. But before we get started and jump over to today's presentation, let's do the usual introductions. My name is Jesus Nava. I am the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. And for me, it's always a pleasure to talk about TradeStation, its technology, and how it helps you become a better trader. So let's go ahead and take a look at the disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that we talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. As we go along the presentation and we start discussing strategies and how they behave against historical data, it's important that we are aware that these are just examples and these are not recommendations of TradeStation, and that past historical performance does not guarantee future results. We have the links right here for additional information and details on those disclosures. Go to www.tradestation.com/important-information. And Manolo has been kind enough to share that link with everyone here in the chat. Manolo works for TradeStation, so any of his comments and posts right here in the chat come from TradeStation as well. So keep an eye for those, okay? Thank you guys for being here. So let's go ahead and introduce the topic of MACD and momentum and learn a little bit about the studies and how they're calculated. So I'm also going to share a link, which Manolo is going to share with everyone here, that has a zip folder. That one right there that shows up in the chat. The zip folder has a PDF, which is the PowerPoint slides that I'm going to be sharing today. And it also has some custom studies that I'm going to be showcasing today as well. So make sure that you click on that link and it should automatically download something to, or the zip folder to your downloads folder. It may appear that nothing, shows up because you would think that since it's a it's a clickable link, it would take you to a website, but it doesn't. You click on the link and it automatically initiates a download. And once it finishes the download, you should look in your downloads folder and it should be there. Okay. When we get to the custom studies, on the platform, I'll show you how you can get to that folder and how to install those indicators on your TradeStation. Well, let's start discussing MACD. MACD is an acronym. It stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence. It was designed by a gentleman named Gerald Appel in the 1970s. It's an oscillator, but it's an oscillator that is used most of the time as a trend following type of indicator. And it pretty much uses the relationship between exponential moving averages to generate signals. It's going to be bullish when the short exponential moving average crosses over the long exponential moving average, and it's going to be bearish when the opposite happens, when the short exponential moving average crosses below the long-term exponential moving average. It's a simple and effective analysis tool, and you're going to realize that TradeStation provides you different tools to gauge the performance and the effectiveness of a tool like this. How is it calculated? Well, first, we have a 12-bar exponential moving average. So these are numbers that are default parameters in the MACD, and of course, you're welcome to modify them. One of the things that TradeStation is known for is in the way that it gives you the ability to customize pretty much everything that it provides. So even though the MACD uses a 12, 26, and 9 bar parameters for the calculation, you can go in there and change those parameters if you wish to do so. So we have a 12 bar exponential moving average, and we say bars because it's pretty much tied in with the time frame of the chart. If you have a chart that has daily bars, then you have a 12-day exponential moving average. But if the chart is set to, let's say, a 5-minute time frame, we're talking about 12 5-minute bars. So that's why we always reference these parameters not as days, but always as bars. How many bars are being used in the calculation? And then whatever time frame you use is going to determine, the frequency of that calculation. We also calculate a 26 bar exponential moving average. We take the difference between the two, between the 12 bar and the 26 bar exponential moving averages, and the result is plotted as the MACD line. This MACD line then is smoothed with a 9-period exponential moving average. So it's an interesting calculation. And when we look at the MACD indicator on the chart, we may think that the two lines are the short and the long exponential moving averages, but they're not. One of the lines, which is called the MACD line, represents the difference between the short and the long exponential moving averages. And then that line, which is the difference between the two exponential moving averages, is the one that gets averaged again using 9 bars, and then it creates the second line. The signals. What are the signals, or the signals that the MACD generates? They can be interpreted in multiple ways. The first one is when the MACD line crosses the signal line. So I'm talking about the MACD line, which is the difference between the two exponential moving averages, the short and the long, and then the signal line, which is the exponential moving average of the MACD line. Whenever those two lines cross, which are the two visible lines of the MACD, that's when you get a bullish signal, when the MACD crosses over the signal line, and you get a bearish signal when the MACD line crosses under the signal line. Let me go over here to the TradeStation platform so that we can give you a visual of what we're talking about. Let's go here and create a chart analysis. Let me resize this, that fills the whole screen. This is the chart of Verizon. I'm going to go and change this to daily. So we use daily bars, studies, add studies, and I'm going to use the one that comes default on TradeStation, which is MACD. So let's go here. I'm going to highlight it, click OK, and there we go. So this may have, different colors than what comes by default. I may have changed mine a little bit, but this is the way that the MACD indicator looks like. So when we look at the two lines that are here, the magenta line and the cyan line, we're talking about the MACD line and the signal line. The signal line is the one that's smoother, and the MACD line is the one that's a little bit more sensitive to market movement. So the magenta line is the MACD line. The cyan line is the signal line. So what we're looking for is for those two lines to cross. That is the signals that we're talking about in our PowerPoint when we refer to the bullish and bearish signals. We're looking at when those two lines cross. There's another signal, which is the crosses zero. Well, in theoretical, it's the same thing as the two lines crossing over, because if you notice, let me go back here to my chart. Whenever the two lines cross, and we're talking about the MACD line and the signal line, that's when the histogram crosses from positive to negative and from negative to positive. They're very correlated to those crossovers because that's exactly where the histogram comes from. It's a direct difference between the two lines. So when we talk about in the PowerPoint about crosses zero, that's what we are, I tend to find whenever that histogram crosses from negative to positive and positive to negative, of course, bullish when it goes to positive and bearish when it's negative. So this is just simple concepts about the MACD. Then we're going to go over to TradeStation and show you what the capabilities are. And there's another, interpretation of the MACD that we don't talk about much, which is divergence. A lot of times, when the MACD is giving you a signal that is going in a certain direction, and you don't see the price activity kind of react in the same way, that's when you have a divergence, because the MACD is telling you something opposite to what the market activity is telling you. So a lot of times, those divergences are interesting to look at because they may represent trading opportunities. So let me go over here to my TradeStation platform and show you a few things that we can do with the MACD. The MACD indicator right here at the bottom, as we said earlier, is it's an indicator calculated on exponential moving averages and the relationship between them. The histogram, which is one of the main components of the MACD, is what the MACD alert is based on. So if you were to turn on the alert of the MACD, you're looking for stocks that are crossing from negative to positive or positive to negative. So in reality, we don't really need the two lines that are plotted with the histogram. These two lines, the magenta and the cyan, they are, of course, the MACD line and the signal line. But the histogram is just a mathematical representation of those two lines. Whenever they cross, that's the difference. So if you wanted to remove these two lines from the indicator, you could do that very easily by doing a very small modification to its easy language. I'm not sure how familiar you are with TradeStation, but all indicators and all strategies in TradeStation are designed or written using easy language. And when you learn a little bit of easy language, you can make small modifications that can emphasize or enhance the visual of your studies. So in my case, I probably want to get rid of those two lines, because if I have a visual of the histogram, then I know for sure when the two lines are crossing. So maybe I don't need those two lines. This is what I would do. I would right click on this study on any of the lines. You can right click on the histogram or any of the two lines on the study, then go to Edit Easy Language for MACD. This will open up the development environment and open up the easy language for that study. And all I need to do, I'm going to scroll down here because there may be, there is a lot of code in here that may be a little bit overwhelming, but what I want to find is my plot statements. These lines from 47 to 50 is what controls the lines that are being drawn in my indicator. You can see that I have my MACD. I have the MACD average, which is the signal line. I have the MACD difference, which is my histogram. And then I have my zero, which is the divider. You see that visual, and it enhances, when the indicator goes from positive to negative or negative to positive. So if I wanted to remove the MACD plot, all I need to do here is add a couple of forward slash. So 2 forward slashes, and you can see how the whole line turns green. This is like commenting out a line of code inside of the MACD so that plot doesn't have it. And I'm going to do that for my MACD. And I'm going to come here to line 48, the beginning of line 48, and I'm going to add another set of forward slashes. And all I need to do right now is click on this verify button at the very top so that it takes the changes. Now, if I go over here to my TradeStation, take a look at my MACD. I've modified the code inside of my TradeStation so that the two lines don't show up and I can concentrate on the histogram, because the histogram is what's giving me the real signals. If I go back here to my easy language, you can see that the alert criteria occurs when the MAC difference crosses over 0 or the MAC difference crosses under 0. So you can already see that if you turn on the alert is being based on this histogram and whether it is turning positive or negative. So those are some of the things you can do to easy language to modify the study as we go along. One thing that I wanted to mention also is the custom studies that I'm sharing with everyone here that are probably not on your TradeStation platform. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let me go in here. If everybody downloaded the link that Manolo shared, in fact, Manolo, if you can share that link one more time for anybody that has joined late, let me pull this window right here in front of us. There it is. Thank you, Manolo. If you open up that zip folder, once it's downloaded, you'll find the PDF, which is the PowerPoint we're using. And you'll also find this easy language document file. Okay. And the way that you open the file is by having your TradeStation Desktop open. And you just double click on that file. And what it will do is it launches what's called the import wizard. Notice that the study types are indicators, and I'm going to click next. In this file, you have 3 indicators that are custom. You have, by the way, the indicator names starts with @MC. It's a prefix that I add to custom indicators that I share with everyone during masterclass. That way you can find them together and you can set them apart from what comes default on TradeStation. But you have 2 of them that are MACD. MACD RS indicator and MACD status line indicator. Let me show you what those modified versions of the MACD allow you to see. Let me go ahead and click on finish. I'm going to say yes to all. It recognizes that they're already in my TradeStations. That's what it was asking me if I wanted to overwrite it. And I said yes. So let me go ahead and remove this version that I just added. That's the MACD that comes default in TradeStation. And I'm going to add the one that I just modified. So this is, again, we have to go and scroll towards the top because we have an @ sign in front of it. So it's @MC. And it's right here, it's MACD status line. This MACD status line not only provides you the histogram that we talked about, but it also provides you additional information about the MACD in its status line. Let me show you. There we go. So now we have the same histogram we were looking at, but the additional information that I was talking about is right here in the status line. For example, it tells you the difference value at the moment, 0.03. So this value is what you see on the scale right here on the right-hand side. But it also tells you, what mode is the MACD at the present moment. You can see that it's cyan and there's a bullish mode. I wouldn't call it a bullish alert because it's been bullish for the past 3 bars. In fact, there is an additional piece of information that it's very beneficial, which is how long ago did the alert happen? Bars since alert, it says 2, meaning that 2 bars ago, we were in a real-time alert. So that's additional information that you get with this modified indicator, which is, sometimes very important to know how long ago the alert happened. This is going to be useful when you're trying to correlate alerts or signals from multiple studies. Today, we're going to talk about MACD and momentum. So let's suppose that you're designing a strategy that is based on both signals, and you want to have some alignment between the 2 studies and say, well, if my MACD and my momentum are both aligned and they're both generating the alert, maybe not exactly on the same bar, because that would be too restrictive. For these 2 indicators to generate an alert on exactly the same bar, that would be, very rare. But, if you get an alert within a specific number of bars, then you are in alignment, at least, with the proximity threshold that you specified, whatever it is. If it's within 5 bars, within 3 bars, if they're both generating an alert within that period, then you would consider those two studies aligned. That's why it's important to keep track of how long ago did the alert happen, because it may be too difficult to get those alerts to happen on the same exact bar. In addition to this study, let me go ahead and resize this chart because I have what we call the radar screen study, or designed for radar screen. Let me show you the differences between the two. I'm gonna go here and open up my radar screen. All right, let me go ahead and put it right here. I'm going to resize it, resize my chart, resize my radar screen. I'm gonna add a list of symbols. I'm gonna say add the NASDAQ 100. It's an easy 100 list of symbols. I'm going to remove some data that I don't need. For example, not interested in net change, not interested in bid, ask, high or low. I'm going to click on the plus here to add a study. Let's start with the default so you can notice the differences between what's provided default and the modified version that I gave you. So this is the default one, MACD. So this one right here does provide you the cross bars ago that I thought it didn't. But okay, fine. This has 3 different columns. It has the MACD value, the 0 line, which we don't really need on a radar screen. So this indicator right here was not designed for radar screen because you don't really need a column full of zeros. I can hide it, of course. I can right click on the MACD, go to studies, and then go to hide or show plots, and I can uncheck the 0 line. That you can do on any study for any column you don't need. And this, of course, tells us how many bars ago it crossed. Very useful is the ability for you to rank based on that information. Let me double click and notice that I get all the ones that are at 0. A 0 bars ago would mean that it's happening at the moment. So let me click on one of these. Let's click on the very top one, ISRG. Oh, I don't have these linked. Let me link my radar screen to my chart. I click on the symbol one more time. It loads right here on my chart. I don't have matching alerts. The reason being is because my chart is set to daily. You can see the daily time frame right here on the top left corner. And my radar screen is set to 5 minutes. These are the type of things that you as a TradeStation user need to be aware of, so that you can have matching signals in charting and in radar screen. Because sometimes you're going to sit there scratching your head, trying to find out the reason why they don't match. So this is 5 minutes. So this is like having a MACD set to a 5-minute time frame, which is going to give you a totally different calculation. So how do I change the symbols here to daily? Well, I click on the symbol column. Because we are affecting the symbols, that highlights all the symbols, and then I click on the time frame drop down and I click on daily. And you can see how they all change to daily. And you can see how the MACD starts calculating based on daily bars. Remember, the MACD uses 26 bars, 9 bars, and 12 bars. So it's going to have to use new data to calculate. So if we sort by crossbars ago one more time, and we go in ascending order, we can see that there's 2 symbols right at 0, Airbnb. And if I click it, you can see what's happening right now on the chart. You can see that after a prolonged uptrend, and we can see how that is reflected here on the MACD, it got to a point where, the data was kind of going sideways and the MACD values kind of, neared or got closer to the 0 line, but didn't quite cross. But you see right on the current bar, today's bar gapped down and it threw the MACD indicator into negative territory. So this is giving you a real-time alert on the MACD. Now, is that a good signal? That's up to you to determine, but this is a nice way for you to identify those symbols that are triggering the alert in real time. We also have AMD giving us an alert. In this case, we have the opposite alert. We have a bullish alert. We were on a negative period, and all of a sudden we get a positive value on the MACD. Maybe not as clear as we saw on Airbnb, considering that if we look at the chart here, there's some sideways movement on AMD for the past, couple or a few weeks. But then again, that signal may represent the change in that behavior if we also, research AMD and try to determine where the price may be headed. All right. The indicator that I supplied, let me remove the MACD here and add and click on the plus here. Very similar to the one that's built in. It just has one additional column. Let me go here to @MC MACD for RS. I'm going to add it and I'm going to move it down right here, right after volume. I'm going to click OK. Okay, and here we go. Some additional information. For example, we have the signal. It allows you to pretty much sort the symbols based on what the MACD mode is. Are they on bullish or bearish mode? By double clicking on the signal, all the bearish are put together, and then all the bullish are put together. If you double click on that column header one more time, it'll inverse the sort, and you'll get the bullish towards the top. One of the things that I may have gotten wrong here is the coloring. I put the bullish as red and the bearish as blue, but that's an easy fix if you wanted to change the color. But we also have an alert column. Here, the text says new bullish alert. And if I double click on the alert, it'll group all the different symbols that are giving me an alert. We already looked at Airbnb, which is crossing at the moment. But here we see Costco, Pepsi, and Starbucks, AMD, and Warner Bros., which are all giving us a new alert. A few of them, or 4 of them are bearish, 2 of them are bullish. But very quickly, I'm able to use this indicator, rank my symbols, and determine which ones are giving me a signal at the moment. And you can see, of course, that goes along with 0 on number of bars ago, because these are all giving me a real-time alert. But it's also valuable to take a look at symbols that are probably, or that have probably not crossed in a long time. If I double click on X bars ago and I do it twice so that the values are sorted in descending order, you can see the symbol that has not crossed the longest. In this case, ODFL, it's been 45 days since the last time it crossed. Does that mean anything? Maybe, maybe not, It all depends on how you want to interpret this. But, sometimes when you see something happening for a long period of time, like in this case on the MACD, this stock has maintained its bullish, MACD mode for so long that you say, well, it's gotta, change something. Something must happen to this soon. So that's the kind of thinking that that comes when we think about, how long ago was the last time that this particular symbol crossed. So this is the type of information that you get with this custom indicator, the signal, the alert, and X bars ago is built into the one that's already on TradeStation. So you have that if you want to use that. But again, to use this indicator, you have to access that zip folder and import it into your TradeStation. In addition to getting, all these signals and the ability to rank and sort symbols based on the values of the MACD, you also have the ability to backtest strategies. Let me go through the momentum indicator, which was another study that I wanted to go and talk about today before I show you the strategies, because I'm going to show you a trick here on TradeStation that allows you to gauge, how these strategies perform based on the MACD or the momentum idea. So let's go back here to my PowerPoint. And some of the limitations of the MACD before we go to momentum, it's a lagging indicator. It uses historical prices. We are using exponential moving averages to a certain extent I'm not sure if you're aware of if you're familiar with the calculation, but exponential moving averages give a little bit more weight to recent data. So they're more sensitive to what's happening right now. So it does remove a little bit of the lag, but it's still a lagging indicator. And this sensitivity, of course, may work against you and trigger false signals because it's a little bit more sensitive. And also, you have the inability to compare MACD values of different securities. It means nothing to compare the MACD value of Apple and compared to the MACD value of Home Depot. Totally different calculations because they're unique to the symbol itself, and you cannot compare those values. So if I were to come here to my study and rank by the MACD, the fact that the NASDAQ 100 index has the highest or maybe the lowest negative value means nothing when compared to another symbol, because as I said before, the calculations are unique to the symbol and it's not designed to compare the MACD difference across different securities. Okay, so those are some of the limitations of the MACD. Okay, so I hear that some people are having issues with the study. Remember what I said earlier? When you click on the link, the file should download automatically. So make sure that you're checking your downloads folder on Windows Explorer to find the file there. If you're having issues, with the download, just send us an email. Manolo, can you share the email address right here in the chat so attendees can have it? And you can email us for any files that you're having issues with, and we can help you there as well. So the email for those that are listening is education@tradestation.com. Okay, but I'm sure Manolo will share it in a moment. Momentum is a very simple indicator. It compares the closing price right now, which is the last traded price, with a closing price in the past. Now, there's a default parameter, of course, that tells it how far back to look and compare those two closing prices, but it does tell you the strength or weakness of price movement. Is it higher or lower than what it was so many bars ago? So we're going to say that it's bullish when momentum is positive and bearish when momentum is negative. That's very simple. So compare the closing price right now with what happened a number of bars ago and tell me if it's going up or down. Distance from zero indicates how fast price is moving as well. So that's another way of looking at momentum, is what is the pace at which the momentum values are increasing or decreasing. Of course, the signals are based on the zero line. So you have a bullish signal when it crosses the over zero and bearish under zero. You can already see why we combine the MACD and the momentum into one presentation, because by default, they're looking at these crossovers on zero to generate the signals. So they're, in a way, very similar to each other. Okay, this is momentum, also using moving averages. We don't have a momentum studies or a momentum study that has a built-in moving average on it, but we can very easily create one using easy language. But in this particular case, if you were using an average of momentum, whenever the momentum crosses the average, that's when the signals would be generated. And of course, divergence. We talked about divergences on MACD. They also happen on momentum. When momentum is telling that the prices may be heading in a certain direction and the price activity does not go along with that signal, you may be in front of a divergence, which is something that we should look at as well. So let me go over here to my TradeStation platform and show you that momentum study that we are talking about. I'm going to go to studies, add studies, momentum studies. We have one that's built in. Let me show this to you and see what it looks like. It's called momentum. There we go. That's what we see, momentum, right here at the bottom. Let me also add momentum right here to my radar screen. So I'm going to get rid of my MACD and actually, no, let me just keep MACD and I'm just going to add momentum along with it. So let me go ahead and add both of them. I'm going to leave momentum above MACD so we can see it right here on the screen. And here's the momentum study. You can see that it has 4 columns, including the signal to tell you if the stock is bearish or bullish based on the last crossover. There's alert information, new bullish or bearish alert based on which one is crossing at the moment and how many bars ago did it cross. So if I sort by number of bars ago, all the zeros are going to be at the top. That's all the ones that are giving me a bullish or a bearish alert. Like, for example, on AMD, we're getting a bullish alert on the momentum indicator. Notice how it's turning from negative to positive. Coincidentally, and this doesn't happen many times, I'm getting the same alert right here on the MACD. So if you guys notice, by having the indicators side by side, I'm able to correlate the 2 signals and find the ones that are giving me alerts on both, the momentum and the MACD. We have AMD giving you that bullish alert on both indicators. And we also have Warner Bros. Giving us that alert, a bullish alert on both indicators, on the MACD and the momentum. It'd be interesting, to design a strategy that looks at both signals. So if momentum and MACD are both crossing at the moment, generate a trade. Let me know how that trade performs. We don't have a strategy that combines, MACD and momentum, but we can test these strategies individually right out of the box because they exist as default strategies on TradeStation, and you have the ability to combine them later in easy language. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean by that. On this chart that I have on the right-hand side, I'm going to go to studies and add strategies. I'm going to select the MACD, and I'm also going to select momentum. So 4 strategies at the same time. This will add the 4 strategies to my chart, but for the time being, I'm going to click on the momentum and turn the status off because I'm going to concentrate on MACD, just the MACD. So MACD is the only one that's turned on. You can see the status right here. I'm going to click on close, and the MACD, it's added here to my chart. Everybody sees that? Now, the nice thing about having a chart with the strategy based on MACD and a radar screen is that I can go through the symbols and see which symbol the strategy does does well. Because a lot of times, you may have a wonderful strategy that works really nice on one security, and as soon as you switch it to a different one, then everything just breaks down and you start, losing money. And it's understandable because, every security moves in a different way. And the strategy, of course, will react to that movement differently. So we cannot expect that a strategy that is applied right out of the box is going to have consistent good results across the board. You'd have to do some strategy development and some strategy design in order to create something that is consistently giving you good results. But let's go ahead and take a look at this strategy. One thing that I find interesting is that for WBD, Warner, we were getting a bullish signal on the MACD, but I don't have a bullish trade or a bullish signal here in the strategy. If you notice, the last strategy signal was bearish or was a short signal. So there must be another component to the strategy that is being looked at in addition to the crossover here. If you want to know, because I always ask myself, why didn't my strategy generate a trade here if I had a bullish signal? So if I were new to TradeStation, I would say my strategy is not working and maybe looking at something different. If you want to know what that specific or what that additional detail the strategy is looking for, we have to go into the easy language. I'm going to right click on one of the arrows. And the same way that we did on the indicator, I can go to edit easy language for strategies, and I'm going to go and look at the long entry. Let me go ahead and click yes there. Yes there. All right, so this is I'm on the momentum indicator. Let me look at the strategy. Here is MACD LE strategy. And what I'm looking for is oh, I see what's going on. Take a look at the strategy here. It's going to buy next bar at market. So the condition is true on the current bar, but it's not going to buy on the current bar. It's going to wait until the condition is true at the end of the day. The problem is that, let me go back here to my TradeStation to clarify this a little bit. You know, right now, yes, it's giving me a bullish signal. But what happens if the price all of a sudden continues to drop instead of going up, and the MACD value then turns red? In a real-time setting, my signal is not true anymore. So the strategy that I'm looking at right now, it's designed to look at the strategy signal at the end of the day. So if at the end of the day, I'm still on a bullish signal, then that's when I want to generate my trade. So that's the reason why you don't see a trade right here on the current bar, even though we have a bullish signal, because it waits for the closing of that bar for confirmation that the alert is really generating that signal. Does that make sense? So if I were to pull up a report, because that's what it boils down to. When you put a strategy on a chart, what you want to know if the strategy did well or not. So with the strategy in place, in fact, you can see all my strategy signals going back in history. Let me see how much history do I have here. Settings, it's going 5 years back. All right, 5 years of daily data. Let me go to the data. This is the way that you measure the strategy's performance. You go to data and click on strategy performance report. All right, let me go ahead and pull this over here to the right. Let me stretch it vertically and take a look at the performance summary. I'm going to collapse, so it gives me a summary of my results. You can see that on this symbol. Let me push this over here. On Warner, the strategy didn't do well, a profit factor of 0.064. So it's a losing strategy. And it doesn't generate that many trades. In 5 years, it only traded 23 times. Of course, we have these very big trades that they seem really nice, but we don't have enough trades to have enough information to have a confidence on our strategy behavior. 23 trades in 5 years, I don't think it's a size that we should rely on, right? We should have more trades so that we can have a more consistent results. But you can see that my largest winning trade was almost $500. And then we have a largest losing trade of 121. So there's a lot of information here that you can use to gauge the performance of the strategy. But here's the nice thing about having the report here, that I can click on any of the symbols that are in my radar screen and have this update automatically. So if I go to AMD, take a look at AMD. AMD is a different story when it comes to the MACD. We have 88 trades in a 5-year period, and the strategy is profitable. Now, of course, this is not to say that the strategy will continue to be profitable if you trade it going forward, but in the past 5 years, we have a good report. You know, percent profitable, 40 or 39% doesn't seem like it's high. However, remember that MACD is a trend following strategy, so you would expect for your profitability to be lower than 50. So you get, and the reason for that is because, yeah, the majority of the trades were losing trades. And if you look over here, we had 53 losing trade versus 35 winning trades. And this is very likely on a trend following strategy, because what you're looking for is for large winning trades and small losing trades. And that's why, even though we have a 39% profitability and we have more losing trades than winning trades, we're still, you know, we still have a profitable report because of that nature of a trend following strategy. But of course, we need to continue to analyze this strategy to make sure that it works going forward and that we have the proper risk measurements as well. Now, there's no stop losses. There's no risk management here. It's just a strategy that flips you back and forth between long and short trade. So AMD does well. IDXX, not good. KHC, kind of well. So the nice thing about this is that if you have a chart that's linked and you have a strategy applied and you link it to your radar screen, you can cycle through a list of symbols and find, which symbols a strategy works on and which ones don't. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other strategy. Let me go here to studies, edit strategies. I'm going to turn my MACD strategy off and turn my momentum strategy on. Let me click OK. And you can see that everything recalculates. Let me click on AMD. Notice that the momentum strategy also has, I would say this is like a break-even strategy. In 88 trades, we have a profit factor of 1.18. Now, not counting commission cost, not counting slippage, it's almost a break-even strategy. So I wouldn't say that it works well in AMD, even though it's on the positive side, it's barely positive. So those are the type of things that I would be looking at just to see if a strategy makes sense or not. But ideally, if I wanted to, in fact, when I was getting ready for this presentation this morning, I thought it'd be interesting to combine the MACD and the momentum as the combined strategy. And it's not what you see here. For example, if I go to edit strategies, we have all the strategies applied, but I'm not talking about this, because even though we see all the strategies added here, they are not working together. They're still very independent, and they will trigger signals based on their own criteria. They will not be based off each other. But if I want the signals to be generated only when both the MACD and the momentum are aligned, then that requires a little bit of programming in easy language and set it up. But it's an interesting idea, and I thought of it when I was, aligning my indicators on my radar screen. I said it'd be cool, to have confirming signals on one indicator and then on another indicator, and if they're both signaling a bullish or a bearish signal, it just makes your signal a little bit stronger because you have confirmation from another technical idea. That's what I wanted to show you. So make sure that you use the indicators. You can use the ones that I provided as modified. They give you a little bit more information than the ones that are built into TradeStation, but the ones that are on TradeStation are also very, very useful. Let me go back here to my to my MACD, because I want to make sure that I remove those forward slashes that I added, so that when I come back to it, I'm not scared and shocked that my lines are gone. When you make modifications to indicators, we always recommend that you rename it to something custom or something that is yours, so that you have the modified version and you also have the original. In my MACD, I modified the original, and I wanted to make sure that it was set to how it comes by default, so it doesn't catch me by surprise. So that's my presentation for today. I wanted to show you, some different interpretations of MACD and momentum. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you have any issues with the indicators, make sure to email us at education@tradestation.com. That's our email address for any issues regarding studies. Manolo is usually very attentive to those emails that come in there. So make sure that you email us with any questions you guys have. Well, thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow, Wednesday at 10 a.m., we have a class on the TradeStation Desktop. The ones on Tuesdays are usually master classes. So we assume that you have a little bit of an understanding on the technology and some familiarity with the TradeStation platform. So it allows us to dive a little bit deeper on the TradeStation functionality. But if you're just getting started with TradeStation and this was a little bit overwhelming, make sure you join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to go over desktop functionality from a basic perspective and show you some charting, some trading, and some scanning capabilities using radar screen. So thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see you in a future class right here at TradeStation. Have a great day. Thank you for having you.